Welcome back. We are jumping into the text today. We're starting with the introduction. This was the first thing Helen Schuckman heard the voice say. And this is what it said. This is a course in miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And if you remember, we went over that in the last section of the preface. Two things I really love about this introduction. One is that this is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. And I don't think that means that every person on the planet is going to read this book. What I do think it's saying, and like it mentioned in the preface, this is just one form of teaching these principles, and one way or the other, people are going to take this course one way or the other. So some are going to do it a hard way, a harder way, and some of us get like the cheat book, right? Which is what we're reading right now. So anyway, I just love that. The other thing I think is worth noting is that this course aims at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So it's not removing the blocks to love's presence. Nothing could block God's love from you. But things can block your awareness of that love. So keep that in mind. I think sometimes we think we are so distant from the divine, and we're not nearly as distant as we think. We're just blocking our awareness of how close we are. All right, chapter 1 is titled The Meaning of Miracles. In the first section of chapter 1, every chapter is going to have multiple sections. And each section has its own title. So the meaning of miracles is the chapter title. And then section 1 is titled Principles of Miracles. And this is punchy is the word that comes to my mind. It's just like laying out all these principles, bam, 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 and doesn't really dive into them. Now that I've read the whole text, I can say that it's because future chapters are going to dive into the details of explaining these principles. So anyway, if some of them seem a little like they just slap you in the face and you're like, whoa, what does that even mean? And doesn't explain, that's because it will explain just later. It'll explain later. Patience, young Padawan. Okay, principles of miracles. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. All expressions of love are maximal. So you can't, if you are actually expressing true love, not what passes for love in this world all too often, but if you're expressing true love, there's no small expression or big expression. Every expression of love, actual love, is maximal. And miracles are an expression of love. Sorry, I just, you're like, did the sound go out? No. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. Miracles, as such, do not matter. Miracles don't matter. The only thing that matters is their source. which is far beyond evaluation. So the thing that makes miracles powerful and amazing and something we desire is the source that they come from. So don't forget that. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. All miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. You will be told all you need to know. Miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. Which makes sense, right? Because if miracles are an expression of love, we shouldn't be controlling and be like, ooh, yes, I'm going to give a miracle to you. And no, I'm not going to show love to you, right? Like, we should just be loving everyone. So consciously selected miracles can be misguided. No kidding. It should just be a habit to just express love in all situations. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Again, no kidding. If they're expressions of love, then if miracles aren't happening, it means we're not expressing love. And that is something that has gone wrong. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They are performed by those who temporarily have more, for those who temporarily have less. And like I said in the preface, we have no lack, but I think what it's referring to here is we can perceive ourselves as lacking. So those who in that moment perceive themselves as having all or enough, right, can then perform miracles for those who temporarily in that moment perceive themselves as having less. Miracles are a kind of exchange. Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. So if you remember, it talked about in the preface, the law of heaven is that giving and receiving are the same thing. You receive when you give, and you only receive when you give. So as you give miracles, as you give love, you also receive more love. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. No kidding. If they are expressions of love, then they shouldn't be spectacles, right? That wouldn't be true love. Prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the Creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. Miracles are thoughts. Thoughts can represent the lower or bodily level of experience, or the higher or spiritual level of experience. One makes the physical, and the other creates the spiritual. And I just want to have you take note that one makes the physical and the other creates the spiritual. And A Course in Miracles, you'll notice that difference in language, that when something is spiritual and eternal, it's referred to as being created. And if it's something that is temporary, then it is made. Because what is made can be unmade, but what is created cannot be uncreated. So miracles are thoughts, and thoughts can make the physical, like our thoughts can make things in our physical world, and they can create if we use them in a spiritual way. So that's my understanding of that. Again, let me know in the comments if you have a different interpretation, because I would love to hear it. Miracles are both beginnings and endings. and so they alter the temporal order. They are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back, but really go forward. They undo the past in the present and thus release the future. This is one that I won't pretend like I fully understand what it's saying here. Um, but what it will explain in later chapters that I do feel like I understand now, but I'm not going to go into it because it'll explain it in a later chapter, and we could be here all day if I went down every rabbit hole, like I said before. They undo the past in the present and thus release the future. I think that's the important thing you need to remember from that one. Miracles bear witness to truth. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather, the uncreative use of the mind. So I want to go over this one because I think the way I understand it, it is important. Miracles bear witness to truth. So we talked about in the preface videos the difference between capital T truth and lowercase t truth, which lowercase t is not actual truth, right? So miracles bear witness to truth, actual truth. They bear witness of that. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic. So they are convincing because they arise from conviction. And if you think of a miracle as an expression of love, if you don't have any conviction, if you receive a miracle, let's say, and you don't believe that that miracle came from love, even though it did, but you perceive it as not being from love, it deteriorates into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive. And just think about how destructive miracles are when people receive miracles, but they don't actually believe that they come from love. Then it becomes this magical thing that either is a coincidence or just, it was just a coincidence, or they, maybe it was something that was like, wait, that that wasn't normal. Like that definitely, what some people would call a miracle, but since they don't believe it comes from love, it just, do you see the difference? I feel like I'm having a hard time explaining it. But do you see the difference? If you don't have that conviction that it is a miracle that came from love, is an expression of love for you, you don't believe that, then it can actually be more destructive than helpful. So, anyway, like I said, I don't know that I explained that very well. I hope you'll sit with that and see how you feel about it. Each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as to receive. So, miracles are expressions of love. Miracles are thoughts. Miracles are also a teaching device. Miracles are a lot of things. But they're a teaching device for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as to receive. Which again, that law of heaven, right? That you receive by giving. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. Miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility away from the bodily level. That is why they heal. That is why they heal. Because it takes you away from identifying with the body and lifts you to the spiritual place where then actual healing can occur. Actual healing doesn't happen at the body level. It happens on the spiritual level or the mind level. A miracle is a service. among all the other things that it is. It is also a service. It is the maximal service you can render to another. It is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. Can you imagine that kind of service? To recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. You don't think that they're worth more than you. And you also don't think they're worth less than you. You recognize their actual worth, the worth that God created them with, their inherent, unchanging worth. You recognize that, and you recognize your own inherent worth at the same time. That is the service. It is the maximal service you can render to another, is to recognize their worth. Unconditionally, right? No matter what they may be doing, you recognize their worth, and at the same time recognize your own. I just think that's so beautiful. Miracles make minds one in God. They depend on cooperation because the sonship is the sum of all that God created. So sonship, it's going to use this term throughout the course. So it's good for you to know what it is now. Sonship, capital SONSHIP. So son, as in the Son of God, sonship. The sonship is the sum with an M. The sonship is the sum of all that God created. So we are all part of the sonship, along with every rock, tree, animal, whatever. It's all part of the sonship. Miracles, therefore, reflect the laws of eternity, not of time. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is one that I wish I could go into right now. It explains it later. It's such a beautiful concept. So I just want you to file this one away. Try and kind of remember it. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. Again, it'll explain that more in depth later. Miracles are natural signs of forgiveness. Through miracles, you accept God's forgiveness by extending it to others. That's how we accept forgiveness for ourselves, is by extending it to others. Miracles are associated with fear only because of the belief that darkness can hide. You believe that what your physical eyes cannot see does not exist. This leads to a denial of spiritual sight. And that's what would make miracles fearful, is if you were denying spiritual sight. And so the miracles wouldn't make sense. Miracles rearrange perception and place all levels in true perspective. So miracles rearrange perception, how we perceive things, and place all levels in true perspective. This is healing because sickness comes from confusing the levels. And don't worry, it'll explain levels later. Miracles enable you to heal. Oh my gosh, please pay attention to this one. This is so powerful. Miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself and can therefore abolish both. You are a miracle, capable of creating in the likeness of your creator. Everything else is your own nightmare and does not exist. Only the creations of light are real. Okay, wow? Anyone else think that that's wow? Can I just read it again, please? Miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself. God didn't make that. You made that. And therefore, you can abolish both. If you made it, you can unmake it. You are a miracle. And it has that in italics, the you. You are a miracle, capable of creating in the likeness of your creator. Everything else, anything you created that is not in the likeness of your creator, all of that is your own nightmare and does not exist. It's just an illusion. Only the creations of light are real. Okay, I'm gonna stop there because this will be a really long video if I do the whole thing. So I'm gonna cut it in half. And that I think is a really good place to end. So we will pick it up here next time. We got through, if you are going to go back and go through this again, we read the introduction and chapter 1, section 1, from, what do they call it? Every sentence is labeled with a number. Through paragraph 24. We read through paragraph 24. So if you want to go back and read on your own, either online or you have your own physical text, that's where we read through today. So I'll see you next time.